Hey folks, welcome back. This is another Now You Know segment. I'm Dr. Jared with Health and Performance Center. We're going to talk about plantar fasciitis. Why? Well, we've noticed a little bit of relatively cooling, a little bit of relative dryness in the air. And what that means is our tissues are starting to get a little bit tight. We're starting to get maybe a little bit relatively dehydrated because we don't feel the need to necessarily drink as much water because of the change in the weather. Also, we're seeing that people are wanting to go outside more and enjoy this weather, going on walks, going on runs, jogs, getting prepped for some late season running. That's fantastic, but we do see a little bit of an uptick in plantar fasciitis because of that. We'll talk about why. Now, what is plantar fasciitis? For a lot of you, you know exactly what it is. It's that heel pain right underneath the heel. It could be a little bit more towards the arch. It could be a little bit more up towards the Achilles. It could go all the way up into the Achilles to be Achilles tendonitis. It doesn't really matter exactly where it's at. It's heel-related pain. But even more importantly, why is it there? That's the big thing that we're going to talk about. There's two things or two reasons why plantar fasciitis comes about. Number one is tension, okay? In here in this diagram, it's a nice little diagram. It talks about tight calf muscles that pull on the Achilles tendon, as well as the band of fascia, the plantar fascia, or the arch that tugs on that heel from the toe all the way back into the heel. So there's two areas of tension, which is why it says, yes, this is why it hurts, or no wonder it hurts. Well, let's even think about it even farther. This is not just about the calf and the arch. It goes all the way up into the hamstring, even all the way up into the hip. All right. A lot of people have found, hey, if I just stretch my hamstrings on a regular basis or multiple times throughout the day, it dramatically reduces the amount of plantar fasciitis that I have. So don't think just at that area where you're having the pain. Think about the entire posterior chain. It's all building tension until it hooks down underneath the heel to really increase that tension, but also have that compression when we're walking, when we're standing on concrete. We have to be in work shoes that aren't necessarily as comfortable as our running shoes or fitness shoes. And so that's why we develop some of that pain in terms of tension. Now, there's another reason why we develop plantar fasciitis, and that's because of poor mechanics. If you think about it, or you watch people walk, a lot of times they'll flare their feet, their knees will be in, their hips will shift a lot. And all three of those things are just a sign of poor mechanic in walking, gait, in running, or anything like that, or even just standing. And what that does is it changes the way that our tissues pull on our joints. So if there's a little bit of an imbalance, or that knee diving in, the foot diving out, the arch crashing down, we're just tugging way more on one part of the tendon and keeping it slack on the other part of the tendon. So we're not really lined up appropriately there. So we can do all the stretching that we want. If we don't line up our tissues, we're going to have limited results. We'll go to the next slide and talk about that a little bit more. Here we're seeing some stretching techniques on the right, which is fantastic. We show these to our patients in correlation with our other treatments to say, hey, let's attack that arch tissue. Let's attack the calf tissue. Number one, with the arch, by kind of working that big toe back into what's called dorsiflexion, or pulling it back towards the shin, while at the same time with that right hand kind of blocking the arch tissue, or kind of that muscle tissue of the arch. So we get this nice solid pull throughout that tissue, so it reduces stress from the toe back into the heel. We're also seeing the classic calf stretch where the leg is nice and straight, but we're missing something there. Her toe is kind of pointing out a little bit to the side. And we want to make sure that that toe would be more pointing towards the heel, or the lead heel. Why is that important? What our body needs in extension of the hip, or when we go back with our leg in a gait cycle or a running cycle, we need to have what's called internal rotation. That's the body's way of finding the most stable and the most centrated dynamic, meaning your joints are all where they're supposed to be. All of those force angles, all those vectors are all in alignment. So we're not overworking or underworking tissues. We're nice and balanced. And if we do that, our tissues should reward us by being 100% pain-free. So again, we see this stretch and you might look at something on WebMD or through YouTube. Awesome. Way to take an active approach, but also realize it's not if you do your exercise, it's how you do your exercise that's important. And we really ensure that you do that at Health and Performance Center. You see on the left, there's the calf stretch. We're not only doing the straight leg calf stretch, but we're also doing a bent leg variant that works a little bit more of the Achilles, the ankle, and the arch itself. And it mimics more of that running gait or the walking gait that we need to have balance in. So if we make any changes to our tissue, they're solidified in a new and better dynamics. We're not just going through this vicious cycle of rolling into pain or getting into pain, stretching, feeling a little bit better, then getting the pain again. We need to change the system to solidify the issue. So we see that calf stretch there. Don't forget about your internal rotation. Another thing with this is just realize don't run to just a cortisone injection. That's just masking the pain. It's almost reinforcing the problem, not only at the heel, but we talked about those poor mechanics: foot out, arch collapse, knee in, hip loose, a lot of shift in our walking cycle. That's not only bad for the arch, it's bad for toes. Girls, if you have bunions, that's exactly how they developed. If you don't want them, maybe address this issue now so you don't have to worry about them. The other thing is medial knee pain, patellar knee pain, IT band syndrome, trochanteric bursitis, SI joint dysfunction, lumbar spine disc herniations or sprained strains. I know that sounds like a long list, doc, blah, blah, blah. No, we're a kinetic chain. Don't forget about that. If you fix one thing, or if you really adequately address one issue, don't neglect the realization that you've dramatically laid down a big time layer of protection through all of those other things. So guys, hopefully this helps you understand how to attack plantar fasciitis, but also how to really set yourself up for success throughout that entire lower half of your body. Good luck and keep moving.